Hello viewers, this is Bhaskar welcoming you back to Bhaskar's Insurance for You and Me series. In this episode, we will discuss about the major exclusions applicable in health insurance. To start with, let us define what is an exclusion. In simple words, exclusion is an event or incident that is not covered under the insurance policy. Any expense incurred related to the excluded event or incident is not payable under the insurance policy. The exclusions under health insurance policies are broadly of two categories. One is standard exclusion, the other one is specific exclusion. The policy exclusion for which the wordings are specified by IRDAI are considered as standard exclusions. These standard wordings are an outcome of the standardization exercise of the regulator, which we discussed in detail in our earlier episode number 12. If these exclusions are applicable for any health insurance product, the wordings specified by IRDAI only must be used, and they must be used verbatim same. For easy understanding, the standard exclusions can be further grouped into waiting periods and exclusions. The events which are excluded for only a specified period after inception of cover are considered as waiting periods, whereas the events which are excluded throughout the cover period are considered under exclusions. The specific exclusions are the ones other than what is covered under standard exclusions, for which the wordings are devised by the respective insurers and are not part of standard wordings by the IRDAI. What are the waiting periods imposed under insurance policy? As the customer has better knowledge about his or her health status than the insurer, leading to information asymmetry, certain intentional wrong practices can creep in at the time of health insurance purchase. What are they? It is possible that some of the customers may opt for health insurance only when they are diagnosed with some disease so that they can prefer claim immediately on taking the policy. Also, some diseases do not need medical intervention immediately after onset, for example, cataract. There is a time gap between the onset of disease symptoms and the time when it becomes essential for medical intervention like surgery. This can prompt some customers to opt for insurance only after they have developed some symptoms and are in immediate need of medical intervention. As the purpose of insurance is to provide benefit for sudden and unexpected events and not for known or expected events, the insurance policy should avoid such cases where the customer knowingly opts for insurance. The time exclusions or waiting periods are meant to avoid such cases. The policy wordings pertaining to waiting period mentions the events or diseases which are excluded from cover for a specified period. One of the major group of diseases which are excluded from cover for a given time period are pre-existing diseases. The details of the pre-existing disease exclusion condition were discussed in our earlier episodes, that is episode number 13. The other waiting period related exclusions are discussed now. The first such waiting period exclusion is known as 30-day waiting period. This is an important exclusion appearing in almost all the health insurance policies. This excludes any expense related to the treatment of any illness within 30 days from the first policy commencement date, except in case of a claims arising due to an accident. This exclusion applies only when the cover commences for the first time and does not apply on continuous renewals. The second waiting period exclusion is a specified disease or procedure waiting period. Under this, the expenses related to the treatment of listed conditions or surgeries or treatments are excluded until the expiry of a specified period of continuous coverage after the date of inception of the first policy. In case of insurance policies which are ported or migrated, The period of cover prior to porting or migration is also included as continuous coverage period for the purpose of this condition, subject to the cover being continuous. The period and the list of specified diseases is a product design feature and it varies from product to product. In any case, the maximum period of such exclusion shall not exceed 48 months. That is, the maximum waiting period for any specified disease shall not exceed 48 months under health insurance policy. This exclusion shall not be applicable for claims arising due to an accident. Now, I am providing an indicative sample of such diseases or procedures along with the waiting periods. For example, the benign ENT disorders, tonsillectomy, adenoidectomy, hysterectomy, benign prostate hypertrophy, cataract, hernia, hydrocele, piles. These are all some of the examples of the procedures listed in the policy wordings which are excluded for a period of 24 months. That is, these diseases have a waiting period of 24 months. Similarly, the treatment for joint replacement or age-related osteoporosis, etc., are excluded for a period of 48 months. So these are a couple of examples. So in respect of the standard exclusions, which are applicable throughout the policy duration, the wordings used are standardized by IRDA and the same wordings are to be used by all insurers. Some of these exclusions are explained briefly now for our understanding. The first one such standard exclusion is investigation and evaluation exclusion. This excludes expenses related to any admission primarily for diagnostics and evaluation purposes, and also any diagnostic expense which are not related or not incidental to the current diagnosis and treatment are excluded. So the insurance is for the cost of treatment of disease or accident only. Hence, any admission or diagnostic for the purpose of evaluation or checkup stands automatically excluded. The other standard exclusion is in terms of the rest, cure, or rehabilitation and respite care exclusion, where the expenses related to any admission primarily for enforced bed rest, which is not for receiving treatment, is excluded. The expenses for custodial care, even in a nursing facility for personal care, for the people who are terminally ill to address their physical, social, emotional needs also stands excluded under this standard exclusion. The next exclusion pertains to the obesity treatment. Normally, the expenses for treatment of obesity or weight control is an exclusion under the policy. However, the expenses related to the surgical treatment of obesity becomes covered under the policy if it fulfills the following conditions. Surgery is to be conducted upon the advice of the doctor, and the surgery conducted should be supported by the clinical protocols. The member has to be 18 years of age or older and the body mass index of greater than or equal to 40. In case the BMI, that is body mass index, is greater than or equal to 35, but the obesity treatment is being given in the presence of comorbidities for the person following few less invasive methods of weight loss like obesity related cardiomyopathy, coronary heart disease, severe sleep apnea, etc. In those situations, the obesity related surgery expenses becomes payable under the policy. So basically, subject to fulfillment of these conditions, the expenses for surgical treatment of obesity stands covered. Some of the other standard exclusions are change of gender treatment exclusion, where the expenses related to any treatment to change the characteristic of the body to those of the opposite sex stands excluded. Any cosmetic or plastic surgery expenses are excluded. However, this exclusion for cosmetic or plastic surgery does not apply if the surgery is part of reconstruction following an accident or burn or cancer, or as a part of medically necessary treatment to remove any direct and immediate health risk to the insured. The other standard exclusion is for refractive error treatment, where the expenses related to the treatment for correction of eyesight due to refractive error less than 7.5 diopters are excluded. The next standard exclusion is in respect of the sterility and infertility related expenses, where the expenses for any type of contraception, sterilization, assisted reproduction services, including artificial insemination, etc., gestational surrogacy, reversal of sterilization, etc., are all excluded under this standard exclusion of health insurance policy. However, recently IRDAI has directed the insurance companies to develop health insurance products to provide cover for surrogate mothers and oocyte donors. Hence, a separate health insurance products are expected to be launched to fulfill this requirement. The next major standard exclusion under health policies is that pertaining to the maternity treatment. The maternity treatment expenses which are traceable to say, childbirth or miscarriage is excluded under the policy. However, if the miscarriage is due to an accident, the same is covered under the policy. If there are treatment expenses due to ectopic pregnancy, those expenses are also covered under the policy. For the purpose of our understanding, ectopic pregnancy basically occurs in fallopian tubes or ovary or abdominal cavity or lower part of uterus. That is, it occurs in body parts other than where normal pregnancy has to occur. This kind of a pregnancy cannot proceed normally and may cause life-threatening bleeding if it is untreated. Hence, the related expenses of ectopic pregnancy are covered under health insurance policies. Any expenses related to the unproven treatment or services or supplies is also an exclusion. The unproven treatment is, is actually the treatment or procedure that lacks significant medical documentation to support their effectiveness and those which have not received full regulatory approvals. The next major standard exclusion is pertaining to the excluded providers. That means the expenses incurred towards treatment in any hospital or by a medical practitioner or by a service provider, which are excluded by the insurer and disclosed in its website or notified to the policyholder as an excluded provider, that is not admissible under the insurance policy. The details of such excluded providers shall be provided with the policy document, and the insurer have to use various means of communication to notify the policyholder, maybe through email or SMS, about the updated list being uploaded in the website. However, even this exclusion, in case of life-threatening situations or following an accident, expenses up to the stage of stabilization are payable, but not the complete claim. The next significant standard exclusion is that pertaining to hazardous or adventurous sports exclusion, where the expenses related to any treatment necessitated due to participation as a professional in hazardous or adventure sports is excluded. The hazardous sports here include parajumping, rock climbing, mountaineering, rafting, horse racing, hand gliding, deep sea diving, etc. Except these, there are some other standard exclusions which include breach of law exclusion, treatment for alcoholism or drug or substance abuse, treatment received in health hydros, nature cure clinics, spas, or even the dietary supplements and substances which can be purchased without prescription, including but not limited to vitamins, minerals, and organic substances. However, these expenses are payable under the policy if the same is prescribed by a medical practitioner as part of hospitalization claim. So these are the major standard exclusions which appear under health insurance policy. Now we will have a look at the specific exclusions, the sample of such specific exclusions under many health insurance policy. As we discussed earlier, these are exclusions for which the wordings are devised by the respective insurers and not by the IRDA. A sample list of such exclusions are expense incurred in domiciliary hospitalization, OPD treatment, treatment taken outside the geographical limits of India, acupressure, acupuncture, naturopathy treatments, bodily injury or illness due to willful or deliberate exposure to danger or intentional self-inflicted injury, circumcision, vaccination or inoculation, expenses incurred towards hearing aids, eyeglasses or contact lenses, uh, medical expenses incurred during hospitalization, but the list of such non-medical expenses will have to be provided as a part of the policy by the insurer to the insured, and also the exclusions of war and war-related occurrences, nuclear weapons. So these are all the specific exclusions which appear in many of the health insurance policies. So from the study of these exclusions, what we have seen earlier, the waiting period exclusions, the standard exclusions, the specific exclusions, we can draw following inferences. Any expense incurred which is not primarily for treatment of a disease or injury is excluded because the same is beyond the scope of insurance. Activities which are prone for frequent claims generally undertaken by fewer individuals is excluded. Example, adventure sports activities. The activities which are not according to the law of land are also excluded. These are the categories of exclusions under which all the above discussed exclusions fall. So in this episode, we have seen details about the different exclusion types that are normally imposed in health insurance policies. We'll continue the discussion on health insurance in the next episode with some more details on the health insurance products. Until then, bye from Bhaskar.